Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeline and you're watching Novel Inc. Today I'm here to share with you all the books that I read during the month of September, and you might be thinking, but Madeline, you never did an August wrap up. You're correct, I didn't. Life happened and continues to happen. While the possibility of me doing a full August wrap up has come and gone, I do plan to do a video of mini reviews of all of the arcs that I read in August because I did participate in ARC August. That will be coming very soon. Anyways, today we're here to talk about September and what I read this month. I read a total of 14 things in September. I am nearly done with the 15th. I will probably finish it by the end of the day. It's the 30th today. But I need to film this video now, so I will talk about that book with you guys at a later date. For now, let's focus on the 14 books I completed during September. The first thing I read in September was a graphic novel of sorts, and that was Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too by Johnny Sun. I bought this at Decatur Book Festival because Johnny Sun was there, and I finally picked up a copy of his book. I've been following Johnny Sun on Twitter for years and years and years, since probably 2011, 2012. I was really lucky to meet him at DBF this year and to purchase a copy of this, and I really enjoyed it. It's just a really heartwarming story about an alien who comes to Earth to learn about humans and his observations and his feelings. Charming is the best word that I can use to describe it. The artwork is super duper cute, and just the themes are things I think everyone will relate to. So it's really simple, but it was really effective and well put together, and I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next thing I read in September was Volume 5 of Sex Criminals, which is a graphic novel series I've been reading over the past couple of years. This is my favorite graphic novel series. It is just so funny and witty, and it has a really special place in my heart because I started reading it shortly after the 2016 election, and it has provided such a lightness in the dark hellscape that we're currently living in. So I really appreciate this graphic novel series for that. I do feel that volumes 1 and 2 were excellent, and from there on the volumes have just been kind of lackluster in my opinion. Volume 5 was no exception. Not gonna get into the plot because hello, it's the 5th volume, but it did just come out in August. It's the most recent release in this series, and like I said, the past 3 volumes have all been 3-star reads for me, but I will continue to read the series forever because it provides some much needed levity in the current political climate. So yeah, like I kind of mentioned, I gave Sex Criminals Volume 5 a 3 out of 5 stars. This book I read was an e-arc I received from Disney Hyperion, and that was Love a la Mode by Stephanie Kate Strom. This was my first book by Stephanie Kate Strom, and I see why so many people really love her writing. This follows 2 teenagers, it's told from dual perspectives, who are both American and they're attending a culinary school in France. I kind of would describe this book as a less problematic version of Anna and the French Kiss, which I'm always here for. I loved Anna and the French Kiss when I read it when I was in high school, but obviously now people have been talking more and more about all of the harmful issues that that book perpetuates, and I think Love a la Mode is a better alternative to Anna and the French Kiss. Or if you, like me, really liked that book a while ago and have since come to realize the things wrong with it, I think you should give Love a la Mode a try. It comes out in November of this year. It was exactly what I wanted it to be, which was a fluffy YA contemporary about 2 teenagers studying cooking in Paris, and that's what it claimed to be, and that's what it was, so I enjoyed it. I will say, if you don't like the trope of miscommunication between love interests, you probably won't enjoy this. There's a lot of miscommunication and just generally teenagers being teenagers in this book, which I don't mind, but I know a lot of people don't like reading about, so just letting you know. But like I said, fluffy, cute, cooking, lots of talk of food and baked goods. It was great. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and a full review will be up on my blog closer to release. The next book that I read was a reread, and that was Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han. I started rereading the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy in August after the movie came out, and so I finished up with Always and Forever Lara Jean this month. I listened to the series on audio this time around and loved it. I loved the audiobooks for the series. I thought that the narrator really captured Lara Jean perfectly. Like I said, this was a reread, and my enjoyment of the first book diminished a little bit. My enjoyment of the second and third books stayed 5 stars. Loved them. Don't really know if I have anything groundbreaking to say about Always and Forever Lara Jean. I don't know, I love this trilogy. It'll always be one of my forever favorites, and if you still haven't read these books after seeing the movie and liking it, I really highly recommend giving them a shot. Yeah, I think that they get better and better as the series goes on, and upon rereading, I once again gave Always and Forever Lara Jean a 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I have a book that I blame entirely on my friend Sylvia from Wish Fulfillment. This was one of her favorite books of 2018, and so I decided to use my Audible credit to get the audiobook, and I'm so happy that I did. The book was So Sad Today by Melissa Broder. It's a collection of essays, and it was so good. The audio was narrated by Melissa Broder herself. I liked some of the essays more than others. Like, I didn't really need as much detail as she gave me on some of the aspects of her sex life. Like, I just don't really, whatever. But I think that this collection really shines in its depiction of mental illness, because I was talking about this with Sylvia, and she was kind of saying that she loved how Melissa Broder is in the throes of mental illness, but also is like actively trying to get better and talks about both of those things. And I feel very much like that almost all of the time. So I thought this was a great essay collection, and I think if you like nonfiction and you like personal essays, this is a great one. And the narration that she gave was also really great on audio, so I would highly recommend this one. Thank you, Sylvia, for recommending it to me, and I ended up giving So Sad Today a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, next I read Toil and Trouble, 15 Tales of Women and Witchcraft, which is an anthology edited by Tess Sharp and Jessica Spotswood. I think I wanted to like this more than I did. Some stories really stood out to me, but for the most part, this is one of the more disappointing anthologies that I've read in 2018. I feel like 2018 has been the year of YA anthologies, and for the most part, I've been pleasantly surprised by the ones that I've read. This one, I was just kind of okay about. This collection definitely contains a wide array of stories. So there's historical fiction about witches, there's like modern witches, brujas, fantasy witches versus like witches who just use like crystals and stars and things. So I liked the diversity of experiences among the witches in this collection. But like I said, I really only like felt things for like 3 of the stories. My very favorite story in this collection was Emery Lord's story. Oh my gosh, so good. It's about 3 sisters dealing with the aftermath of one of the sisters' abusive relationships. It was fantastic. It was like everything I love about Emery Lord's writing condensed into like 30 pages. So good. My other 2 favorite stories were Anna Marie McLemore's story, no one is surprised, and Jessica Spotswood's story. So while I think this is very fitting for the season, I thought it was just okay, gave it a 3.5-ish out of 5 stars. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about this. Next, I listened to another like memoir personal essay collection on audio, and that was Nothing Good Can Come From This by Christie Coulter. I picked this up because I heard the ladies on the Book Riot All the Books podcast talk about this, and I thought it was okay. So it's a collection of essays all about the author's relationship with alcohol and drinking. She was an alcoholic and stopped drinking, and it's about her relationship with alcohol and her relationship with sobriety and everything that affects in between in her life. One thing I did really appreciate about this is that Christie Coulter acknowledges her privilege. So I don't actually know like what kind of job she has. She never specifies, but she gets paid a shit ton of money, and she is very upfront and forthright about that, which I appreciated. But she like acknowledges that she is coming from a very privileged perspective. And it did, there were some funny stories, there were some heartbreaking stories, everything in between. So while I didn't absolutely love this, it didn't completely wow me, I think that if you're interested in the subject matter, you should definitely pick this one up. And Nonfiction November is coming up, would be the perfect time. I ended up giving Nothing Good Can Come From This a 3 out of 5 stars. Okay, the next book I read in September was another reread, and that was Vicious by Ve Schwab. I love this book so much. So I reread this in preparation for the release of Vengeful, which came out last week and which I still don't have my hands on a copy of. What is wrong with me? When will I have enough money to buy it? Who knows? I first read this and shortly after it came out, 2013, 2014. This was always my favorite Schwab book. and I think upon rereading it, it has held its place as my favorite Schwab book. So obviously the characters in this are morally gray, they're morally ambiguous, whatever you want to call them. It's an anti-hero story, so you don't want to root for either of them, but I do find that Victor is a very easy character to root for, even though he is kind of awful in his own ways. I just like the discussion of morality that this book contains. I like that Ve Schwab has chosen to explore people with extraordinary ability and show how that kind of power in reality probably would just make people gigantic assholes. I'm really interested to see where Vengeful goes with this story and these characters. Can't wait to get my hands on it. Yeah, loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Read it. Okay, now I'm going to be getting into the books that I read during the Contemporary-a-thon, which was September 17th through 23rd. I was gonna make a separate wrap-up video, but honestly, it was only 4 books, so I figured I would just include them in this video. First book I finished during Contemporary-a-thon was one of my favorites I read this month, and that was Tyler Johnson Was Here by J. Coles. This was great. It was a really quick read. It was pretty short. I had heard kind of mixed reviews of this actually, which surprised me, so I was hesitant going in, but I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I expected. This story follows our main character Marvin. He and his twin brother Tyler go to a party, and the cops end up showing up at this party. After the party, Marvin tries to find Tyler and discovers that he is missing. There's like a bit of a mystery in there, although it's resolved fairly quickly about, you know, Marvin trying to find out what happened to Tyler. At its core though, this is a story about injustice and police brutality and police violence and how it affects communities of color. This felt very in line with something like Anger is a Gift by Margot Shiro. So obviously we've seen an uptake of books about police brutality against people of color in the past few years, and if I had to compare this to any of them, it would be Anger is a Gift, although I think every single book in that category of books stands on its own and should be read in its own right. It doesn't claim to have all the answers. It's more of like an examination of a system of injustice. It is really heartbreaking, and it's not necessarily like a hopeful story, although there is some hope to be gleaned from it. But overall, I think this is a very necessary and powerful read. Again, the subject matter is not ever easy to read about, but it's something that I think all of us, especially those of us who live in the United States, and especially those of us who are white and live in the United States, need to continue reading about and educating ourselves about. I ended up giving Tyler Johnson Was Here a 4 out of 5 stars, and I would very highly recommend picking it up. Next, I read 26 Kisses by Anna Michaels. This was a very fast read for me. It's a YA contemporary that follows a main character who has just gotten dumped by her boyfriend and decides to spend the summer going through the alphabet and kissing a boy whose name starts with each letter of the alphabet. So a boy whose name starts with A, B, C, etc. It's one of those plots that is ridiculous and a little bit far-fetched, but is still really fun to read about. And the unrealistic aspect of it doesn't really detract from your enjoyment of the story. However, one of the kisses in this book was non-consensual. The main character kind of like ambushed this boy, and that made me feel kind of icky. Hey, editing Madeline here. I just wanted to add, I don't know why I forgot to talk about this in the video. I think that the author tried to include some commentary about slut shaming and completely missed the mark on it. So basically everyone in the town starts finding out that the main character is kissing all of these boys and starts like calling her a slut and talking about her. Author, I think she like tried to do something good, but like really just missed the point entirely. The main character, the way that she chooses to address this, I guess, is by being like, what they're saying isn't true because I only kissed these boys, like I didn't have sex with them or anything, when obviously the point that I think needed to be made in this conversation was like, the concept of a slut is rooted in misogyny and is not a real thing, and women can have sex or kiss or do whatever they want with as many people as they want as long as it's consensual, which also in this book, it wasn't always consensual. So that made me angry. It just felt like the author just like, here was the point, and then the author was like, all the way over there. Totally missed it. I didn't love this. It wasn't awful, but I do think there were some problematic elements contained with. This was pretty much what I expected it to be though. I ended up giving 26 Kisses a 3 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it wasn't awful. yeah, that's all. Next, I read a book that I genuinely did not like, and that was Meet the Sky by Mccall Hoyle. This is about a hurricane that hits the main character's home, and she ends up being stranded on this island that she lives on with a boy. Shocking. When they're unable to evacuate during this hurricane, I mostly hated this because I thought the love interest was trash. He constantly put the main character's safety in danger, and I would have never forgiven him for not evacuating her in due time. He was like totally okay with compromising the main character's safety for his own like reckless habit. He would compromise her safety in order to do what he wanted, which was just shitty, and she ended up forgiving him for it, and I don't really think that was deserved. It started off on a bad note with the love interest, and I did not grow to like him throughout the novel. It just, yeah, this wasn't my favorite. 2 out of 5 stars. Next, I read a novella, and that was Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is like an Amazon original novella that Taylor Jenkins Reid published last month, I think. Pretty much classic Taylor Jenkins Reid. It explores a lot of the same themes that all of her other novels explore. It does it in an epistolary format. The entire novella is told through letters from different characters to one another. Basically, the 2 main characters' spouses start having an affair with one another, and one of the main characters decides to write to the other main character to say, hey, I think our spouses are having an affair, and the letters just continue from there. There is like a plot twist at the end that I kind of like rolled my eyes at because it was a little bit like over dramatic, but you know. I enjoyed this. I tend to enjoy Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. I don't really relate to it because I'm in my early 20s and not married, so I don't feel like I'm in the same stage of my life as her protagonist usually. Nevertheless, I enjoyed it. I think if you like Taylor Jenkins Reid, you should definitely pick this up. It was a very quick read, and I thought the epistolary format was really fun. Also, there were references to the main character of her Taylor Jenkins Reid's upcoming 2019 novel, Daisy Jones and the Six. Anyway, this was good. If you like TJR, you should read it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next thing I read was Serious Moonlight by Jen Bennett. This doesn't come out till April 2019, but I decided that I would read it for Contemporary-a-thon because I could. Because I love Jen Bennett, and this was my pick for the 5-star TBR prediction. Also, I'm still just like really shocked that I got approved for the e-arc of this, so I wanted to read it as soon as humanly possible. I liked it, but it is probably my least favorite Jen Bennett novel so far. In Serious Moonlight, we follow our main character Birdie, who is working the night shift at a hotel, and she loves like crime dramas and mysteries and detective novels and stories, and she and her coworker at the hotel kind of team up to investigate a mystery that's unfolding inside the hotel. It's typical swoon-worthy Jen Bennett romance, very sex positive, which is always a delight to read in Jen Bennett's books. There's lots of discussion of like safe sex, casual sex, and yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I don't really have complaints about it other than the fact that the plot just didn't grab me as much as Jen Bennett's other novels did. Nevertheless, it was good. I would still recommend it, especially if you have read and enjoyed Jen Bennett's previous novels, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'll have a full review up closer to release. It doesn't release until next year, so you know, you might have to wait a little bit for that review. I've already written it, but it won't go up until much closer to release. But like I said, for now, 4 out of 5 stars. Enjoyed it. Next, I read a thriller, and that was The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. I listened to this on audio. It was a thriller. It didn't do anything new or exciting in my opinion. Like a lot of books, I guess, in this wrap-up, don't have much to say about this. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. It's a thriller set at a summer camp, and so the main character went to the summer camp as a child, and the 3 other girls in her cabin when she attended this camp as a kid ended up going missing. Now, as an adult, she's been invited back to the camp to be an instructor and be on staff there. Strange things are afoot, and she tries to solve the mystery of what happened 15 years ago when she was there as a child, but also new mysteries are starting to unravel. It was an interesting plot, but it you know, in my opinion, didn't do anything new or exciting. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. I did really like the audio though. I thought the narrator was really engaging. So if you like thrillers, probably would like this. I'm so sorry, I feel very inarticulate right now. This is like the only time I have to film, but I'm really tired right now and like just got home from work, but you know, whatever, it's fine. The last book that I have to talk to you guys about this month is The Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Cappetta. This is an Italian inspired fantasy about a girl who is the daughter of basically like a mafia leader. I love Amy Rose Cappetta's writing. Her 2017 book, Echo After Echo, was one of my favorite books of last year, and I think that her prose is stunning. So even though I don't pick up fantasy too often, I knew that I definitely was interested in picking this up, and I'm glad that I did because I thought that the magic was really inventive. Really enjoyed the romance as well. It's a romance between our female protagonist and a gender fluid love interest. Loved it, so good. I thought that the way gender was explored in this world was great, although take that with a grain of salt because I am a cis woman. Again, the magic was fun and different. The setting was really cool. I tend to prefer more political fantasies, and I think this definitely fits that bill. And there's a lot of politics at play. There's lots of like scheming. The main character was kind of badass. The love interest was also kind of badass. And I would highly recommend this, especially if you're a fantasy reader, but even if you're not like normally a fantasy reader, such as myself, I think this is still very accessible, and I had a grand time reading it. I gave The Brilliant Death a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, that concludes all the books I have to talk about this month. I apologize for how long-winded and like inarticulate I was in this wrap-up. I had a lot of mediocre reads this month, and it's really hard sometimes to articulate your feelings on like 3 to like 3.5 star books. My only 2 5 stars of the month were the 2 rereads that I did, so you know, whatever. Nevertheless, I hope you guys still enjoyed this video. I will leave all of my social media links down below as always so we can be friends. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you soon in another one. Bye.